He's half giant, Harry shouted. There's nothing wrong with him. The whole pub had gone very quiet. Madame Rosmerta was staring over from behind the bar, apparently oblivious of the fact that the flagon she was filling with mead was overflowing. Rita Skeeter's smile flickered very slightly, but she hitched it back almost at once. She snapped open her crocodile skin handbag, pulled out her quick quotes quill, and said, "How about giving me an interview about the Hagrid you know, Harry? The man behind the muscles, your unlikely friendship, and the reasons behind it? Would you call him a father substitute?" Hermione stood up very abruptly, her butterbeer clutched in her hand as though it was a grenade. "You horrible woman," she said through gritted teeth. "You don't care, do you? Anything for a story, and anyone will do, won't they? Even Ludo Bagman." "Sit down, you silly little girl, and don't talk about things you don't understand," said Rita Skeeter coldly, her eyes hardening as they fell on Hermione. "I know things about Ludo Bagman that would make your hair curl. Not that it needs it," she added, eyeing Hermione's bushy hair. "Let's go," said Hermione. "Come on, Harry. Ron." They left. Many people were staring at them as they went. Harry glanced back as they reached the door. Rita Skeeter's quick quotes quill was out. It was zooming backwards and forwards over a piece of parchment on the table. "She'll be after you next, Hermione," said Ron in a low and worried voice as they walked quickly back up the street. "Let her try," said Hermione shrilly. She was shaking with rage. "I'll show her. Silly little girl, am I? Oh, I'll get her back for this. First Harry, then Hagrid." "You don't want to go upsetting Rita Skeeter," said Ron nervously. "I'm serious, Hermione. She'll dig something up on you." "My parents don't read the Daily Prophet. She can't scare me into hiding," said Hermione, now striding along so fast that it was all Harry and Ron could do to keep up with her. The last time Harry had seen Hermione in a rage like this, she had hit Draco Malfoy around the face. "And Hagrid isn't going to hide any more. He should never have let that excuse for a human being upset him. Come on." Breaking into a run, she led them all the way back up to the road, through the gates flanked by winged boars, and up through the grounds to Hagrid's cabin. The curtains were still drawn, and they could hear Fang barking as they approached. "Hagrid!" Hermione shouted, pounding on the front door. "Hagrid, that's enough! We know you're in there. Nobody cares if your mum was a giantess, Hagrid. You can't let that foul Skeeter woman do this to you. Hagrid, get out of here. You're just being..." The door opened. Hermione said, "About time," and then stopped very suddenly because she found herself face to face, not with Hagrid, but with Albus Dumbledore. "Good afternoon," he said pleasantly, smiling down at them. We wanted to see Hagrid," said Hermione in a rather small voice. Yes, I surmised as much," said Dumbledore, his eyes twinkling. "Why don't you come in?" "Oh, okay," said Hermione. She, Ron, and Harry went into the cabin. Fang launched himself upon Harry the moment he entered, barking madly and trying to lick his ears. Harry fended Fang off and looked around. Hagrid was sitting at his table, where there were 2 large mugs of tea. He looked a real mess. His face was blotchy, his eyes swollen, and he had gone to the other extreme, where his hair was concerned. Far from trying to make it behave, it now looked like a wig of tangled wire. "Hi, Hagrid," said Harry. Hagrid looked up. "Lo," he said, in a very hoarse voice. "More tea, I think," said Dumbledore, closing the door behind Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Drawing out his wand and twiddling it, a revolving tea tray appeared in mid-air, along with a plate of cakes. Dumbledore magicked the tray onto the table, and everyone sat down. There was a slight pause. Then Dumbledore said, "Did you by any chance hear what Miss Granger was shouting, Hagrid?" Hermione went slightly pink, but Dumbledore smiled at her and continued. "Hermione, Harry, and Ron still seem to want to know you, judging by the way they were attempting to break down the door." "Of course we still want to know you," Harry said, staring at Hagrid. "You don't think anything that Skeeter cow..." "Sorry, Professor," he added quickly, looking at Dumbledore. "I have gone temporarily deaf and haven't any idea what you said, Harry," said Dumbledore, twiddling his thumbs and staring at the ceiling. Right," said Harry sheepishly. "I just meant, Hagrid, how could you think we'd care what that woman wrote about you?" 2 fat tears leaked out of Hagrid's beetle black eyes and fell slowly into his tangled beard. "Living proof of what I've been telling you, Hagrid," said Dumbledore, still looking carefully up at the ceiling. "I have shown you the letters from the countless parents who remember you from their own school days here, telling me in no uncertain terms that if I sacked you, They would have something to say about it. Not all of them, said Hagrid hoarsely. Not all of them want me to stay. Really, Hagrid, if you are holding out for universal popularity, I'm afraid you'll be in this cabin for a very long time, said Dumbledore, now peering sternly over his half-moon spectacles. Not a week has passed since I became headmaster of this school when I haven't had at least one owl complaining about the way I run it. But what should I do? Barricade myself in my study and refuse to talk to anybody? Yeah, you're not half joying, said Hagrid croakily. Hagrid, look what I've got for relatives, Harry said furiously. Look at the Dursleys. An excellent point, said Dumbledore. My own brother, Aberforth, was prosecuted for practicing inappropriate charms on a goat. It was all over the papers, but did Aberforth hide? No, he did not. He held his head high and went about his business as usual. Of course, I'm not entirely sure he can read, so that may not have been bravery. Come back and teach, Hagrid, said Hermione quietly. Please come back, we really miss you. Hagrid gulped. More tears leaked out down his cheeks and into his tangled beard. Dumbledore stood up. I refuse to accept your resignation, Hagrid, and I expect you back at work on Monday, he said. You will join me for breakfast at 8:30 in the Great Hall. No excuses. Good afternoon to you all. Dumbledore left the cabin, pausing only to scratch Fang's ears. When the door had shut behind him, Hagrid began to sob into his dustbin lid-sized hands. Hermione kept patting his arm, and at last Hagrid looked up, his eyes very red indeed, and said, Great man, Dumbledore, great man. Yeah, he is, said Ron. Can I have one of these cakes, Hagrid? Help yourself, said Hagrid, wiping his eyes on the back of his hand. Oh, he's right, of course. You're all right. I've been stupid. My old dad would have been ashamed of the way I've been behaving. More tears leaked out, but he wiped them away more forcefully and said, Never shown you a picture of my old dad, have I? Here. He got up and went over to the dresser, opened a drawer and pulled out a picture of a short wizard with Hagrid's crinkled black eyes, beaming as he sat on top of Hagrid's shoulder. Hagrid was a good 7 or 8 feet tall, judging by the apple tree beside him, but his face was beardless, young, round and smooth. He looked hardly older than 11. That was just after I got into Hogwarts, said Hagrid croakily. Dad was dead chuffed. Thought I might not be a wizard, see, 'cause of me mum. Well, anyway, 'cause I never was great shakes at magic, really. But at least he never saw me expelled. Died, see, in my second year. Dumbledore was the one who stuck up for me after Dad went. Got me the gamekeeper job. Trusts people, he does. Gives them second chances. That's what sets him apart from other heads, see. He'll accept anyone at Hogwarts so long as they've got the talent. Knows people can turn out okay even if their families weren't, well, all that respectable. But some don't understand that. There's some who would always hold it against you. There's some who'd even pretend they just had big bones rather than stand up and say, I am what I am and I'm not ashamed. Never be ashamed, my old dad used to say. There's someone who'll hold it against you, but they're not worth bothering with. And he was right. I've been an idiot. I'm not bothering with her no more. I promise you that. Big bones. I'll give her big bones. Harry, Ron and Hermione looked at each other nervously. Harry would rather have taken 50 blast-ended scroots for a walk than admit to Hagrid he had overheard him talking to Madame Maxime. But Hagrid was still talking, apparently unaware that he'd said anything odd. You know what, Harry, he said, looking up from the photograph of his father, his eyes very bright. When I first met you, you reminded me a bit. Mum and Dad gone, and you was feeling like you wouldn't fit in at Hogwarts, remember? Not sure you were really up to it. And now look at you, Harry. School champion. He looked at Harry for a moment and then said very seriously, You know what I'd love, Harry? I'd love you to win. I really would. It would show 'em all. You don't have to be pure blood to do it. You don't have to be ashamed of what you are. It'd show 'em Dumbledore's the one who got it right, letting anyone in as long as they can do magic. How you doing with that egg, Harry? Great, said Harry. Really great. Hagrid's miserable face broke into a wide, watery smile. That's my boy. You show him, Harry. You show him. Beat 'em all. Lying to Hagrid wasn't quite like lying to anyone else. Harry went back to the castle later that afternoon with Ron and Hermione, unable to banish the image of the happy expression on Hagrid's whiskery face as he had imagined Harry winning the tournament. The incomprehensible egg weighed more heavily than ever on Harry's conscience that evening, and by the time he had got into bed, he had made up his mind. It was time to shelve his pride and see if Cedric's hint was worth anything. And that's the end of chapter 24. Thank you for listening, everyone. And your question for the Quidditch card challenge is, what is the name of Hagrid's mother? And that happens about midway through that chapter. What is the name of Hagrid's giantess mother? And I shall see you tomorrow for chapter 25, the egg and the eye. See you tomorrow, everyone. Thank you. Bye.